What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Coast to Coast. I'm Ronan Gaine. Joining me, as always, Chris Nambu. Thank you so much for making this your first podcast for NBA coverage. Remember, you're on Spotify, you're on Apple Podcasts. Make sure you leave that 5-star review. You're on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe, leave a comment. Let us know what you think. You do that, we'll keep producing that content. We're going to be looking at the Western Conference a lot in this pod. We kind of dive into the East first week of the new season. Now we're going to take a look out west. Before we get into that, we're going to just do a little fast break, a few little quick hitters to get us into a flow that we feel need a mention, but nothing too in depth. Chris, how you doing, man?
Yeah, I'm good. Sorry, this recording's coming a couple days later than usual. Sorry if I sound a little nasally. I was not going to do a flu game the other day. I was just feeling like garbage, but luckily got to hunker down watching basketball. So doing a little better today. And let's get into it, man. The Wild Wild West. It has been fun to take a look at it. Still, again, man, I still can't believe these games go so late. But we'll start there. Where's your first fast break on? Let's go.
I just want to mention quickly. I want to mention the Phoenix Suns just real quick. I want to talk about Kevin Durant. I am loving what I'm seeing from him and from the Suns this season in the fourth quarter, where he is touching the ball constantly. The ball is constantly in his hands, and they're playing off of him. He's making big shots, which we know he's more than capable of making. But he's also the guy that everything is running through, and that's something I've wanted to see from Kevin Durant for so long. And especially within this Phoenix Suns organization, I feel like that's something that Coach Bud has come in and said, "You're our guy. We're gonna play through you in the clutch moments." And hey, it's absolutely working, and it's great to see.
Yeah, and this is fast paced. We won't go too in depth here. I do want to talk to them in a little bit, but I think you hit it right on the head. Kevin Durant looks more assertive. The Suns look like they're more in a flow. We'll jump into it a bit, but KD is still KD, man. He's still one of the best scorers in basketball, and we still know what he can do on the defensive end and the way that Bud is allowing them to look that way and the way that some of these guys are embracing the roles. It's good to see. And it's quote unquote quiet, right? And maybe this is a fast break point. I won't belabor this, but the Suns are quietly 7-1, and the Warriors, who we'll also dive a little bit more into, are 6-1. Why is it so quiet? And
Mhm.
I don't want to do a whole like media conspiracy thing, but I think the apology eventually should be as loud as the detractions. And I'll be the first to say it. Both of these teams, I followed the wave of, they're kind of on their way out. We're not too excited because they didn't do too much. In fact, maybe they got a little worse. I don't know. And they're both doing really well in the early goings, and they both look very good. So it's not that weird that it's quiet when everyone was too busy telling us that they're going to suck.
Yeah. I just say that we are seeing the impact of Coach Bud, who we all know is a serial winner in the regular season. And also to everyone who doubted him, Steve Kerr is absolutely showing to begin this season that he actually can coach. And for all the people that were questioning him last year during the Olympics, Steve Kerr knows how to coach basketball.
Oh, yeah. He's there in top form. And like I said, we'll dive into him a little bit. I'm gonna throw you full court pass. I'm gonna let you answer this because I have an answer already. But who has been your favorite duo so far in the league? Not the star duo. If you can give me a bench duo, do it. But if you have another duo, let me know. Who's been your most fun duo?
I mean, this is kind of a start, so I'm kind of cheating here, but it's been
That's
it's been
fine.
Garland it's been Garland and Donovan Mitchell.
Okay. I like
I've
that.
loved the way that they've played off of each other, shown an ability to both of them to take a back seat and also be at the forefront and be the guy in the right moments. The way they're just dovetailing together. Obviously, it helps when you're 9-0 and they're doing that at the same time. But especially as a pairing that we have had our doubts about,
Yep.
that was very highly doubted during this offseason, and everyone was kind of like, okay, you got to trade Darius Garland, we got to do something different here. And to see how it started and to see them really playing like one of the, if not the elite backcourt duo in the NBA, it's been awesome.
Yeah, and that's another major thing. And I'll stay on that end with the Cavs. They have their leading league in passes, assist percentage, most assists in the league. And this is a team that, we're questioning if they can continue to be together, if they all fit together. But how are they scoring? How are they being so prolific? Yes, it is because these guys are healthy. Yes, it is because they have a dominant front court, great defense, but they move the ball and they have that rhythm right now. And if they can continue it, man, I'm excited for them. But let me answer that. My favorite duo so far this season is Tari Eason and Amen Thompson.
Yeah,
They
that's fair.
are the
Mm.
most just demonic defensive duo I've seen. And I'm loving like how much praise that we're seeing. Like there's just real love I feel that has been growing over the last few years for just defensive playmakers and guys like Caruso and Lonzo, like what they were able to do on the Bulls in their time together. And now you're seeing, Derek White and Drew Holiday, their defensive duo, the playmaking that they do on that end of the floor. And we'll talk about OKC in a bit. But Houston, a team that just has a large collection of two-way players and guys who I think are really just dogs on that end. Those two are phenomenal playmakers on that end of the floor. And you watch what happened against the Warriors and how Tari Eason just on his own, like him and Amen Thompson, but Tari Eason really like with his scoring, but they were turning them over. They just like the Warriors could not get into any offense because those two were just all over the floor, blowing everything up, forcing turnovers, scoring in transition, getting fouled, getting to the free throw line. And it was really them that led to that overtime, and they couldn't pull it off in overtime, but they were down by 30, 31. And Tyrese in that game, 27 points, 4 steals, 3 blocks. Shot 60% from beyond the arc that game. And this is a really long fast break point, but I gotta say, man, Tari Eason's been exciting. And I think that the roster needs a little reconstruction just in terms of how good I think they're realizing he is.
Yeah, for sure. He was a guy we were already looking forward to seeing more of this year. He was a guy who was kind of got forgotten about last year for different reasons, but he's looked great to start the year. And also, Eamon Thompson, like when I watched him, like the only full Rockets game I watched this year was when they were playing the Knicks the other night. They obviously got the win there. And watching Eamon, it was really just like his floor literally seems like he's like a more athletic Dylan Brooks. Like that feels like his floor right now when
Yeah.
you're watching him play because he is that good defensively. He is going to grow as an offensive force, and he's just that guy who does all the little things for Houston that helps them keep them ticking over. And that's only we're only going to see his role increase as time goes by.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up, and I'll consider this a whole other fast break point, so that doesn't count as going too deep here. But man, Dylan Brooks has been good for them, and I think that I loved the signing when they did. Yes, it was a lot of money when they did it, but it was a guy you need a culture guy. You need a guy who's going to bring that intensity and really show the other guys a way to compete in the NBA, and that's that kind of identity they wanted, especially with Udoka. But I think maybe I mean they knew that they're in his wheelhouse. They know Tyrese and they drafted him, they value him, but I think, at least as a fan, I didn't realize just how ready he was from that intangible point of the game.
Mhm.
Like when you talk to him, when you see post game interviews and how he's talking to the media and how like intense he is on the floor, like he is locked in. Like he is a young guy, but he's already a defensive leader. He's already like bringing that level of intensity, not just in his play, but just his demeanor. And Dylan Brooks in his role in that kind of thing becomes maybe a little bit obsolete, especially when you look at Tari, who's been an excellent scorer. Like when he's given the opportunity, like he's having some chances back to the basket, he's having some chances as a spot up shooter, especially in the open court. All this to say, like, I think maybe Dylan Brooks, he's been fine, but if you can shop him, give Tari more minutes, that's that's something I'd like for them to do.
Dylan Brooks was always kind of like he was always going to pave the way for this next generation, and then they're going to move on from him. I
Yeah.
don't think there was ever really an idea that he was going to be a key part of this team when they were really looking at like a consistent playoff force. I think that was always the way. And I know it kind of maybe it's a bit insulting to Dylan Brooks, but he's played a key role. But I don't think his role really is going to be big in the future with this Houston team.
Yeah. Well, ball's back in your court. What else you got?
Switching over to the East real quick, just the Knicks. Just got to say, thank God it's a long season because this Knicks team needs time.
Yeah, they do.
They need time to figure out how to play together. Brunson and Cat need to figure out how to play a little bit more two-man game. Cat needs to really improve his rim protection. And I know he's injured all the time, but thank God we didn't give up Mitchell Robinson in in that trade. Because imagine if we were in a position now where it really was Jericho Sims as our backup big, and we didn't have Mitch hopefully coming back healthy for the second half of the season and the playoffs. Because Jericho Sims so far doesn't look like a guy that deserves more time. He barely even looks like an adequate backup. It's rough, but thankfully we're only 7 games into the season. We've got time to figure it out. But yeah, tough start for the Knicks. They need time to figure this out.
Uh, Quick question about the Knicks. Are your worries about Mikal Bridges shooting, are they starting to dwindle? Do you feel a little better?
Yeah, yeah, I feel better. For the most part, I'm liking what I'm seeing from McHale. I'm liking what I'm seeing from OG after the first couple of games where it was a little bit iffy.
Yep. Now he's up to 37% from beyond the arc, far better than his 17%, I believe, in preseason and what we saw in the first game as well. So I think that is probably the greatest silver lining for a team that I obviously thought was going to have just some growing pains. But maybe it's not so obvious to be fair. I thought it would be a little easier on the offensive end because of how Cat would be so plug and play with them. But it's such a massive
I
piece
think
to fit in.
Cannon's fit in well offensively. I just think Brunson isn't playing at the level that he has previously. His field goal percentage way down. He's missing a lot of shots that he usually makes when he's really in the flow of it. Whether that's still a fifth thing, I don't think so. I think Brunson just had a little bit of a slow start, and I think when he starts to hit his shots at the level we know he's capable of, especially his twos, he's been pretty good from deep, but his twos he's really struggled. So I think if we see that get back to a little bit more normality, I think we'll see it just be a kind of defense be more of an issue moving forward than the
Yeah.
offense.
And just on that, so I'm glad you mentioned it. The twos, he is an elite ISO scorer because of how he can play off of 2 feet. And a lot of those little floaters, those turnarounds, those hooks, those runners, they've not hit the mark. And they don't look different to me. Is there anything that you're seeing? Because you're watching more Knicks minutes than I am. But anything you see that feels different about it, or it's just not falling?
Nah, I think it feels like it's just not falling. That's kind of the vibe. Like it's kind of in the back of my head. I know guys are talking about how the refs were kind of letting things be a bit more physical this year. That was kind of
Hmm.
something that's been happening, and it was mentioned that Brunson could be a guy that might suffer in that
Yeah.
situation. Maybe there's an element of that. Maybe he's still looking that he thinking he's going to get fouled too much when he's putting up these shots and not just focusing on making the shots itself. So that element could be kind of affecting him a little bit. But I think for the most part, it's just not going down so far.
Yeah. And you kind of see it a little bit in some games. Like we'll talk about the Nugs and the Thunder, but Shea too, the way his game is and how a lot of the stop and go is you're expecting contact and you're getting in a rhythm, getting to the free throw line. If you're not getting the free throw line, Trae Young talked about it last year about how that it really affects your rhythm as a scorer if that's how you're starting to get going. But I'll stay in the East on this next one. This is a guy I was really curious if he would start to get going in his second year. We talked about his shooting numbers in the second half of last season. Gradey Dick, is he already the best movement shooter in the NBA?
I don't know if I'm quite ready to go there, but he's certainly looking like it. He's certainly showing flashes of that. His. I think it's probably like I mentioned to you last night. I think it helps that IQ is not in the lineup right now to get him more touches. But yeah, I mean he's had a rise that I really wasn't expecting so far to start the season with Toronto.
Yeah, the data is a day old, so I wasn't able to update this. But as of 2 days ago, I mean, coming off screens, he's second to Curry in number of those possessions. He's scoring 1.29 points per possession on those to Curry's one, and he's shooting 59% on those 31 shots. On spot up threes, 1.5 points per possession, 53%. He is the percent. He is top five in that. And he's doing it on a ton of possessions there. And I think he's going to continue to get that because Scotty comes in, he's just going to continue to feed him the ball. That's not really going to do a lot. And in terms of quickly, I think quickly we'll take a few of those. But I think really this offense is starting to kind of gear around getting their shooters open. And who's their shooter? It's Gradey Dick. Um, I think it's really impressive how he's looked like a actual NBA player, not just in terms of how great he is at shooting, but attacking the basket, rebounding, getting back on defense, competing on defense. And dude, I think this is kind of a meteoric rise. I'm not saying he's like an all-star level or anything like that right now or like that. But being a guy who wasn't an NBA player last year, like not even a rotational guy, and a guy who also sucked in the G League, to being like objectively a top five shooter in this league right now, and also being a guy who's able to stay on the floor and compete and do pretty well, like that's massive for a second year player. I really caps off to him. He's not going to be in any most improved list probably, but maybe outside shot in terms of how good he's been. I've been really impressed.
Yeah, I mean, like early doors, but it probably will even out as we move forward. But the early doors, he should be in that like conversation of the most improved to of the first 8 games of the season. Do we know what's wrong with Manuel quickly? I mean, I feel like I didn't see anything about his injury. I didn't see anything from like Shams or anything like that. That seems like a weird one there.
Um, he is. It's a great question. He's really gone under the radar, and oh, it's a bruised pelvis.
Oh, wait, what a weird injury.
He's got a bruised pelvis.
That is a weird.
No
That is a
comment. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's a weird one there. Okay, well, last point I got to make on the Eastern Conference. The 76ers. We're not going to talk about the Bucks because we talked about them last week, but the 76ers. Now 1-6, 0-2 with Paul George in the lineup. Embiid has been suspended for 3 games, but apparently the word on the street is once those 3 games have elapsed, he's going to make his season debut, which is good news. And now Tyrese Maxey's going to be out for 2 weeks with a hamstring injury. It's all shit. It's just house is really on fire in Philadelphia at the start of the season.
How have you felt about Maxi?
I've been I- I've been a little bit disappointed. I thought he'd be a bit more used to playing the role of the star for how much he had to do it last year, and I think he was been a little bit underwhelming. He's not grown as the facilitator that I would have liked so far that from what I've seen. But again, he's in a tough spot, especially the first games where he was playing. Just it was just kind of just him out there and hoping other people could deliver for him.
Yeah, I think one thing that's really interesting about him, his elite talent is getting to the rim. Like he's so fast, he's able to get downhill, get to the rim. Right now he's shooting 49% at the rim. This is the worst he's ever shot. And it's again, it's early. It is early. But his rate getting there is down and 3-point shooting is up. And you just hope that, I don't know, like his shot diet kind of corrects when everyone's fully healthy,
Mhm.
whenever that is. And Embiid served his time. Um, I guess fast break on that. How do you feel about the suspension?
They
Yeah.
have to make a point.
Okay.
They have to make a point. I I know you're not allowed to do it, but like I can't say I don't understand why he did it for get like from what the article entailed and what has gone on. I think it was just all his frustrations with everything going on with everyone questioning his want to play and just not being able to play, and then that comes down on top of it. I think his frustration just boiled over. Hopefully, we can just move on from it now. It's done. That's my thoughts on it.
I I have a conspiracy theory on it. I always do. Keith Pompey, who is the 76ers insider, a lot of people push back and be like, well, he never says true things anyway about the team. Sure. He said on Twitter that he threw a punch. That tweet was deleted. And I wonder, because like, what is a push? First of all, Joel Embiid is a massive human being, and any normal sized human being pushed by Joel Embiid, like that, you might as well get hit by a car. If Joel Embiid punches you, that's a whole other thing. But I think the team would have the right to, if the relations are gone, like would they take away his media pass or like I don't even know how those dynamics work to be totally fair. But Embiid getting suspended 3 games for a shove, if it was just like a hey, don't talk like little shove. I don't know, but maybe he did like punch him in the face or punch him and like this is just their deal. Like, hey, we're you're gonna still be with the team, you're still gonna report for us, but uh you know,
Yeah, it's a weird one. And
we're
like
not gonna talk. We're gonna call it a push. I
he'd
don't know.
yeah, like I'd have to imagine if he threw a punch that he'd be getting sued right now, but
He'd be dead. That would be
but
the
but
biggest check of his life.
we'll move on from that real quick. But you and your conspiracy theories, I love it.
But no, the vibes are not great. And for a team that roster wise, we're really excited about, and they're just going to be a team again that will take time. Um, let's do it. We're going to do it every week. I say we still just do a quick little temperature check. Let's do another DEFCON check on the Bucks. What were we at? DEFCON 3? We're at DEFCON
Yeah,
3. I'm
yeah.
I'm at I'm at DEFCON 2. So like 2.0, not 2.5. I'm at DEFCON 2.0, approaching DEFCON 1.8. I'm nearing the panic, complete, blow it up switch that everyone's saying this should not happen. Give them time. I don't see where they have time. I don't see where they have time.
Time is very much one thing that they do not have. Time is not a thing that they have. It is like them and the Lakers just have the same problem. They're extremely top heavy. They have very little perimeter defense, and they just don't have the reliable scoring you need to compete when your defense, or the reliable shooting, I should say,
Yeah.
when your defense is not putting up putting up enough stops in this modern NBA. It's kind of interesting to watch the two. They're very they're very similar situations that they are both in. I think the Bucks have better shooting, and it'll improve if and when Middleton does come back and Gary Trent stops shooting like a badger and starts actually making shots, which is what they wanted him to do. But
Like a what?
I said like a badger, but yeah, but he it's I don't see it really turning around to the effect where nobody is saying, "Oh, they need to blow this up." But it's not going to get back to that level. It's going to be consistent calls to break this thing up. And when do people start coming calling for Doc Rivers' head? That won't be too long around the corner.
Yeah, so someone made Kevin O'Connor talked about this actually, about his observations with player coach interaction and how Doc is more like old school and more a little bit more in your face coaching. Definitely a different vibe than they've had before, and definitely a different vibe than Dame has had before. Um, Curious if that has had an impact on it. What I will say is that one piece that I think would make a little bit of sense is Bobby Portis. I think there are teams out there that would value Bobby Portis's contribution off the bench. You know, the backup center shooting big is a pretty, you know, a pretty high value target right now across the league. It's not really showing out here in Milwaukee, but maybe he's someone that they can look to shop. But I think there's got to be, you got to look at the front office and look to them to be creative in the middle of the season because something has to change. And if it's if you can do it, you just have to try. Because at this point, you're this far in. You've already moved off of Drew. You're already in the Dame experiment. To go off of Dame and send him away right now would be catastrophic. But maybe a team like the Heat, they have depth. Is that something? Could you get that back? Could you make that move? Who knows? But I'm at DEFCON 2. We'll see next week. I think we'll continue to approach hitting the button and blowing it up. But man, it's tough.
We're recording here on Thursday afternoon. The Bucks play the Jazz tonight. They
Oh
should
my
easily be
God.
winning that.
I
And they
need
play the Knicks tomorrow. And with the Knicks' struggles with rim protection, I could see Giannis going off. If they can win these two games, obviously they should absolutely be beating Utah comfortably. And then if they can get a win in Madison Square Garden, that could be signs that things are maybe just turning, and maybe they can now focus on more trying to add a piece to help this team rather than think about blowing it up. But that's
yeah. Obviously, no trades are gonna happen now, but just in terms like these are things that front offices. I wonder what are they thinking? Okay, like if this continues to get worse, what are our options? What new directions can we take? Especially with a cupboard as barren as theirs. We talked last week about the list of NBA players they have. to trade and what guys are actual NBA players that other teams would actually value. And it's low. Bobby probably is the only one that would be actually valuable. But I think that's our fast break. I think we stayed in the East long enough. Let's get back out to the West and let's talk about those quiet teams real quick. I want to go revisit the Suns quickly. And talk about the Suns and Warriors. Top two teams in the West. Suns, like we said, 7-1. They won 6 in a row. They won in a dazzling performance from Durant last night against the Miami Heat. And let's just put some stats to what you talked about. The defense. The defense is good. Beal's more active on ball as a defender. He's talked about being more committed on that role, looking like old Bradley Beal competing on defense. But they're fifth per cleaning the glass and taking away any garbage time. They're fifth in defensive rating. We've talked about Ryan Dunn and how good he looks on the ball, how much of a playmaker he is off the ball. I think, you talked about Bud and how he's known to be like an offensive guy, but like defense has always been his calling card as well. And it looks like they are really starting a foundation here, especially with one thing I've noticed is the switching. They're not switching as much as they did last year, and they're really fighting over screens. They're being more physical, and Durant talked about how it's setting the tone. I guess the question is this just an early kind of observation, or is this kind of feels, at least to me, like this is a tangible difference that they made in the offseason that can give them the foundation to be the like superstar team that they are.
Yeah, I mean like we're really kind of seeing the year two of this. Like a lot of people mention it, like year two is often when these super teams really kick in. Some of them can work straight off the bat, but year two is where we really see it kick in. And maybe the change of coach, maybe the addition of a Tyus Jones,
Yeah.
the addition of a Ryan Dunn, even of a Mason Plumlee as the backup big. Maybe those small additions on the margins and the stars being more healthy and playing together with a coach with a clearer scheme and one that can benefit his players more is just all kind of clicking together. And that's how it's not just a fluke. This is actually what we expected Phoenix to be. And obviously, I'm not sure I'm ready to say I'm putting them up as the favorites to win the West or anything like that. But the start that they've made is what we expected from this Phoenix team, and it's huge that we're seeing it so early in the Bud reign.
Yeah. And I'd like to I think this is a cool period to kind of like, for people to put their money where their mouth is. And a lot is said in the off season about identity and about culture and about intangible stuff that unless you're, there watching the practices, there in the locker room, it's hard to really attest to, but the energy feels different. And I think special attention should be given to Bradley Beal, who's taking the least amount of shots in his career and shooting way more efficiently than last season. He's shooting 51% from the field right now, and his turnovers are all the way down. So, I mean, for a guy like that to embrace a role, to embrace being a energy guy, being a defensive guy, taking smarter shots and not, seeking some of those hard shots. And we know he can make, but he doesn't need to when you have Devin Booker and Kevin Durant. Like, how much credit I think should we give to Beal for a cultural turnaround, so to speak? And I think it should be a lot.
Yeah, just stay on the floor. Stay on
Yeah.
the floor. Let's just keep them.
Yeah.
I think I don't think it's too. I think it's too early to say everyone has to give them this credit. Let's see it over a more consistent period. It's absolutely started where we need it to be.
Yeah.
Let's see it continue.
Yeah. Yeah. Now we go to the Warriors, the second quietly second best team, or not even second. I think they're the best team in the West right now. Not actual best. Yes, that is the Thunder, but in terms of what we've seen from them statistically, they've been insanely good. They're 6-1. They have the best net rating, second best defensive rating. What are we seeing from them?
7-1 now, right? 7-1 after
7-1.
last
Yes,
night.
after last night. What are we seeing from them that's different from last season?
I mean, they're just playing Warriors basketball. That's what it is. Like Warriors
Yep.
basketball is a thing, and they're playing it at an insanely high level. We are seeing how important it is to have Andrew Wiggins on the floor, healthy and with a clear mind. It appears he's having a big impact. it's just a buy-in. It feels like the Warriors really took it personally, all the criticism that they faced throughout the offseason, all the questions about, oh, losing Clay, oh, what moves are they making? Oh, they need to make this trade, they need to make that trade. And it just feels like as a team, they've united and just said, fuck this. We know how to play basketball. We know how to get the best out of what we have within this team. And and we're seeing that on the floor.
Yeah, like I think the before we get into like some of the smaller things, the biggest thing is Buddy Hield, and I mean, I didn't think that that was gonna. I thought it was gonna be a great fit, but I didn't think that he'd be like this electric, this aggressive, this. I mean, like he's great. Like he's
That is going to
played
even out, though.
great.
We gotta make that
Yeah,
happen.
yeah, like
It is
it's
going to
going
even
to
out.
eventually. It's going to
He's
eventually,
shooting
but
50% on nearly 5 makes a game from deep. Like that we're going to see that. He's going to see that come back to human level. But it's so funny that the ability of Hield as like a 3-point shooter has been like quietly touted. It's been like a silent narrative around the Splash Bros era and all of that. And you see, oh, actually, Buddy Hield actually made more threes than
yeah,
either of them since he entered the league. And now he's finally a teammate with Steph Curry. He's finally in Golden State, and we're actually seeing that come to fruition. He's actually balling out at that level that we thought it could be. It's pretty cool.
yeah. Of course, a lot of this gets buried in the whole small market, big market thing. Um, how much attention did he get when he was doing the same thing in Indiana? But obviously not to this level. But I think the like he just fits perfectly in what they do. Um, he's impossible to contest if you're going under screens, you're going over, and the amount of um, actions that get him open, in the same way that they got Clay open. I think this is probably the some of the easiest basketball he's played in his life, just in how much ball movement there is and how spaced the floor is. And playing next to a guy like Steph Curry, best shooter he's ever been next to. So it's been such a perfect match, and really happy to see him like get another, some recognition in this career he's had. Um, but going to some of the other guys in terms of like why their defense is good, like Draymond, it's been great. He's also been like his shooting is quietly talking about the quiet stuff, like shot nearly 40% last year.
I'm shooting
And
40% now,
it
yeah.
looks like he's about to do the same thing this year. Yeah, there's a shot here and there that you're like, uh, why'd you shoot that? But here's the thing. What are defenses doing now? They're closing out. Like the scouting report's there. Like, okay, Draymond can shoot now. We can't just leave him open. He's making those open shots. Defenses are closing out. And how many plays did we see last night against the Celtics where you get a closeout, Draymond attacks a closeout, and his elite otherworldly skill is throwing the lob in the short roll and throwing the lob after attacking the closeout. And guys like Trace Jackson Davis are just feasting off of that. Guys like Moody, guys like Kuminga, and just I guess going up and down the list because I think these guys deserve a lot of credit for really outplaying the expectations. Moses Moody, when he's getting run, I've always said it, man. Like he brings such good energy on the floor, and he never shies away from them. Like he's always going to take those shots. He's always going to attack the basket. He's always like he does all the little things, and hopefully this is the season where he really gets his opportunity. But him, Trace Jackson Davis, it's just been impressive to see how assertive they've been on the defensive end, both ends of the ball, really.
Yeah, I feel like the defense is there. I think that could hold. It's just where are they when things kind of start to level out a little bit? Like we mentioned with Hield, like both Moody and Wiggins are currently shooting well over 40% on multiple makes from deep a game. Where do they stand when things kind of start to even out a little bit? That's going to be very interesting to see moving forward with the Warriors. But from the get-go, they've got back to playing their style of basketball, and it's not just working, it's absolutely thriving. So it's great to see that their culture, it feels like it's back. We didn't lose it when they lost Clay. The culture is still there defensively and offensively, and it's really clicking so far.
Yeah, I think the answer to that is defense. That's where it stays. I think
Mm.
they're a team that's going, especially with under Kerr, with Draymond there, with the guys that they have and what we know about them. Like these are all competitors on the defensive end. This isn't anything new. This isn't like, hey, can Bradley Beal play defense whole season? No, these guys are guys who are going to give energy all season long. So I think, they're holding opponents to the lowest effective field goal percentage outside the paint and second lowest in the paint. And like this defensive identity is something that yes, maybe the stats are a little bit skewed in terms of like the teams they played early on. Like Wizards have been more competitive. Pelicans have been decimated. Clippers without Kawhi. But really good defenses just, terminate those teams. And that's what they did. That's what
Yeah.
they did. And I think they can continue to do
And
that.
then they just beat Boston, and now they go and face Cleveland, and then they face the Thunder. So that's going to be
Yeah.
this a really interesting stretch to see where this team really is at. I'm excited to see these couple of games coming up.
Yeah. Depth, defense, Steph Curry. I think I'm excited about the Warriors again.
Yeah, and even I kind of like poo-pooed like maybe with like the likes of like a Wiggins and Moody might drop off, but at the same time, Podzimski's had a really difficult start to the season. What are they going to look like when he gets back to the level
Mhm.
that they expect from him? What are they going to get back when Steph starts to up it? Because Steph's kind of playing a little bit within himself so far, and we know he can take it up to another level as well. So like. As much as some of it could even out, it could also be. We could also see a rise from some of the other guys who have kind of taken a back seat to start the season too.
Yeah. Um, and I guess just to mention it, because I think last night should have been, I guess, for the media, for the fans, and for the story, a statement game from Jason Tatum. Um,
We did
to
have a good
flip,
game.
who did have a good game, but where was he when the game was on the line? And that's just you know, that's always the refrain. That's always the easy question to ask when things don't go right and the best player didn't hit the game-winning shot or go on a like. I get it, but Tatum should be that guy, and I think in that moment especially. Um, I guess I'm not usually the guy getting on that train, Ronan. You know me. I defend Tatum plenty, but and I don't like to simplify it to that. But I wish that in a game with that level of meaning, which he's gonna brush off and say it doesn't mean anything. I wish that that was how the game would have ended for him. It has nothing to do with my parlay. Nothing.
I don't have that.
Absolutely
I
nothing.
don't have that wish for him. That would just be my expectation. I would say
Yeah.
that'd be my expectation is for him to have gone and done that. But I assume he'll get another chance. I assume they'll go and face Golden State in San Fran at some point this season.
Yeah. And probably not in the finals, like a lot of people are writing about.
Mm.
Let's look at the Bucks counterpart in the West. Let's do a check-in on the Nuggets, who are gonna face a really tough stretch right now. I mean, Murray's still day to day, and Aaron Gordon's gonna be out for several weeks. And it's funny because like the whole issue has with Mike Malone and the front office has been Mike Malone does not want to play these young guys. Question is, are they good or not? Mike Malone clearly didn't think so last year or the year before. And now he has to. There's gonna be no choice. He's got to play these guys. Um, what's our litmus test on the Nuggets? Like, is it Julian Strawther playing well? Is it Christian Braun filling that KCP role? Like, how do we know if the Nuggets are okay?
We don't know that. Like up until last night, they played three somewhat with two legit teams, one somewhat legit team in the Wolves, Thunder, and the Clippers. They lost all those games. They'd beaten the Raptors twice, the Nets, and the Jazz. They needed overtime to beat the Nets and the Raptors also had a shot to win the game on Monday night, which obviously they missed. So very narrowly beating
Yeah.
quite weak teams that we usually expect Denver to easily beat. Then last night, Mike Malone threw a fit on the sideline, picked up a tech, and all of a sudden the Nuggets go, "Oh shit, we're better. We actually can start playing now." All of a sudden they locked it down defensively. They did two things. They either played really, really fast, forced makes and played really fast, or give the ball to Jokic down low, let him bully. And it worked. It clicked. They almost blew it again. Peyton Watson went from zero to hero real fast in the final seconds of that game. But I still don't feel any different really about the Nuggets. I'm still in a place where I'm just like they're still relevant because there's a guy named Nikola Jokic that plays for their team. So we always have to give them respect. We always have to believe that they could still go on a run later in the season. But I still don't really believe in their depth. Don't really believe in Russ continuing to perform the level he's kind of has over the last couple of games. I'm a Jokic believer. Outside of that, I'm not too believing in the Denver Nuggets.
Like, okay, is last night going to change my mind about their overall situation? No, but I think it's a glimmer, and we've been looking for glimmers. We've been looking for how are we going to view their identity this season if Aaron Gordon's out, if Jamal Murray's fading, if you don't have the stabilizing shooting presence of KCP? That those are questions that we're still trying to answer. Well, let's jump into the numbers before we talk about it. Like Christian Braun, he's still like a really good catch and shoot guy. This is gonna even aggressive the mean a bit, but 48% on volume, catch and shoot. Um, but as a pull-up shooter, shooting 25% from three. And the reason that's important, how many, reliable offense can you get from the KCP Jokic two-man game? It's just a quick pick and roll. KCP gets a good size set, and the defender has to go over that. And that's where defenders get stuck. Because when you put a good shooter that can really move next to Jokic, then is Jokic going to pull the pass? He's going to then put the ball on the floor, go past the post defender. Are they going to fake it back? Or is KCP going to just take the shot? And a lot of that, is coming from the fact that defenses have to respect a guy like KCP, and Christian Braun has not shown that that's in his toolbox right now. He just doesn't have the movement shooting, even to the point of like taking one dribble and taking a shot like that. That is something he has to do. He can't shoot this badly, putting the ball on the floor and just having like 5 feet of space. Jokic has just cleared up a wide open three. He has to be able to dribble and shoot beyond the arc like that. That is something that is concerning. I mean, the cutting is still there. I mean, him, Watson, and even Strawther. Strawther's looked good. But Strawther, let's talk about him. He's another guy that they really need to shoot well. So far, he's only making 35% of his catch and shoot opportunities. And it's the opposite. Like, pull-up shooting has not been bad. It's not been great volume, only 10 shots, but he made 6 of them. So that's, as a shot creator, maybe there's a little more potential for Strawther. But I think, yes, the shooting's not been good, and that's been a big reason, most obvious reason why they're just not going to reach the expectations. And yes, why I think we have limited expectations for how good this young core can be. But let's look on the positives and see how they matched the energy of the Thunder last night, who I want to talk about in a little bit. But I mean, the Thunder identity is, that physicality, how their guards are able to defend so many positions, 1 through 4, 1 through 5 even. And the fact that the Nuggets brought that same level of physicality, the fact that they matched it, and the fact that at times that they were really, they were the ones who were taking the attack to the Thunder. They were the ones who were setting the tone. Is your Peyton Watsons, your Julian Strawthers, and Russell Westbrook leading the charge on that. I think you saw last night a Russell Westbrook game, not just because of his stat line, 29, 6, and 6. And yeah, talk about the turnovers, but he had 0 in the second half. A lot of that physicality, that downhill mentality, that quick, fast-paced game, you saw that. So I think that gives me a glimmer of hope for an identity they can create to, survive when Jokic is off the floor, and also complement Jokic. How much more cutting can you get? You're not going to have that Gordon vertical threat, but you're going to have all these other guys who are able to really attack the paint. So I think there's something there. There's something there to build on.
Yeah, then again though, the Russ flash last night, that's the flash that you get everywhere. It makes you want to believe and makes you think, oh, that's why they got him. Okay, then now it makes sense, and then we'll get to bigger moments and you'll be like, why the hell did they ever make a move to add this guy? That's just the way it goes with Russ, unfortunately. But
I know.
you are right. There is reason to have hope, and at the end of the day, the absolute bottom line is Jokic will always make those around him a whole lot better, and that puts them in a positive light, and that will always be the case, and more importantly, because Jokic will always be on the floor as well.
Yeah. And last point on Nuggets. Um, a couple of years ago, I was on Zeke Naji Island. I was chilling. I was not too worried. And last year, I think I booked my ticket, hopped on the boat, and when Gordon got hurt, I was like, all right, maybe I'll go back. Maybe I'll take a little visit. But I think that time is over. Zeke Naji did not eclipse 10 minutes, and every minute he had on the floor, he did not make an impact. One meaningful contest, but otherwise getting scored on, like Jalen Williams just switched on. When he switched on him, he just getting destroyed. Just did not have the foot speed, the lateral quickness to be a small big, and that's just what we hoped you'd be. We hoped you'd be a floor spacer, a switchable kind of big, and he's looked unathletic. It's looked uninspiring. And if he doesn't do anything while Aaron Gordon is gone, like he's going to be out of the league. He's going to be out of the league.
Yeah, yeah.
He probably already was, but yeah.
Yeah, I think the Nuggets know that contract that they gave him was one of the biggest mistakes they've made over the last 2-3 years. That was a mayor. Whoever's decision was to say, yeah, he's our guy. Let's invest in him. That was a big mistake because it's not even close to tradable deal. Let's talk about the team that Denver defeated last night, the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Man,
Defensively, they've been scary. They've been scary.
yeah. I'd like to point out that Alex Caruso playing the five might be my favorite thing I've seen all season. Like, how many other, has there been any other guard I mean, probably throw in Drew Holiday, we've probably seen that. But Alex Caruso, you see him playing up on Jokic, and he's just such a pest with the ball. And then everybody else, man, like Cason Wallace does not get enough credit for how good of a defender he is. A lot of his game is touted as being a shooter, but he is just an absolute menace. There are 5 possessions that he clocks into the game, hits a floater, and 4 possessions in a row after that, defensive possessions, he's got a hand on the ball, 2 of them becoming turnovers. And he embodies that same level of just tenacity that you get from Lu Dort. Lu Dort obviously just being like a immovable object, but Cason Wallace, his active hands, same thing with SGA, same thing with Jalen Williams. And up and down the roster are guys who are able to quickly help and rotate back. And this just allows him to swarm. And Jokic just could really, it's amazing that Jokic had, what do you have, 15 assists last night?
Yes,
He had 15,
yes,
16, no,
close,
16 assists. He had 16 assists, 20 rebounds. I think that just speaks really to Jokic's absolute greatness in terms of the passer. Because when you're watching it, like, it's like, how is this guy passing the ball? Like, at times he's getting triple teamed, but it doesn't seem like he's getting triple teamed because it happens just for a split second. And as soon as you think Jokic is passing the ball, then their guards are just immediately back on their man. And you think that, they're playing 5-on-4 half the time because the way that they can just rotate back weak side, it's insane. Like they are just constantly on a string. They're all like this one like living hive organism. They're all bees swarming around Jokic, and it's insane. I can't imagine how anyone's going to deal with that in the playoffs. But let's talk numbers here. 97 defensive rating, and they're getting 13 steals a game, 13.1 steals a game. That is a four steals ahead of second, like just miles ahead. Opponents are shooting 52.5% at the rim, and that's even with possession of them playing 5 guards out there. Like they are all contesting. And you saw it too, like when Jokic thinks he's got Chet just like pounded under the rim, or he's got Caruso under the rim, all of a sudden there's Shea, gets a block. All of a sudden there's Lu Dort, gets a block, and it's just impossible. Like I haven't seen this level of just like fast-paced defensive identity in regular season basketball in a minute. I can't think of it, but it's been impressive.
Yeah, I mean it's been incredible, and like just the versatility they have defensively is just scary. It's absolutely unbelievable. Like the improvement that getting a Caruso in for a Josh Giddey has made to this team is just
Unfair.
absolutely ridiculous. And like you mentioned, like they're like first in defensive rating. They're at, I think I saw it was 96.3. To put this in context, obviously this will even out over the season, but Timberwolves were the best defense in the league last year at 109. Like that's the level of defense this OKC team is playing to begin the season. Yes, they will obviously even out as the season goes on, but that's scary levels right now. And they're also second in net rating, even though they've got the 21st ranked offense. So like their offense is not playing at the level that it did last year. Their defense is playing at an absolutely insane level, but as that offense starts to catch up a little bit to the defense, this OKC team can absolutely just kick off from there. They're just dominating everywhere you need to dominate. defensively to be able to make sure your team's going to win games, like their first opponent field goals, field goal percentage, 2 points, 2 point percentage, turnovers, points. They're second in 3 point percentage of 3 pointers made. Like you're not going to lose many games when you're dominating like that defensively.
Dude, their shooting's gonna come around, and when it does, it's gonna be scary.
Yeah.
And right now they're shooting. This was a couple days ago. They're shooting 35% on wide open threes, and they're generating a ton of wide open threes. I mean, you even watched the game last night, um, and the kind of shots that they're generating are really good shots. I mean, they're constantly moving the ball, dribble, pass, drive, pass. Like it's gonna be something that will just come with more volume. Um, and one other number, just back to the defense real quick. That small ball lineup I mentioned, that the micro ball, I guess you could call, um, Brooklyn and guys here forcing turnovers on almost 33% ball possessions. And it's not a crate like when you watch when that lineup gets out there and you got your Casey Wallace, your Caruso, your Lou Dort, like it's impossible to pass the ball. It's impossible to cross the half court mark without having already been pestered, like and being immediately trapped, and then just it's something that's going to continue to amaze me. Another thing, another thing is the pace, and I think this is an interesting thing we've noticed. I've noticed so far. Team like the Bulls lead in league in pace, and that's been impressive to me. I mean, yeah, you lose DeMar DeRozan, obviously. What are you gonna do? You're gonna play a little faster. Wizards second, Hawks third. Teams that don't have the offensive system, you got to play fast. You got to get ahead of the defense and score that way. OKC, they're fourth. But what they're not are a team that turns the ball over. They are sixth in the league in turnovers. And that is not something that is typical for a team that's playing that fast. And you see it on the floor. You see how they immediately get into a shot and they get into good shots and they move the ball well. Yes, I'm losing my voice here, but this is how excited I am getting about their offense and how quickly they can create things. And the shooting's just gonna come.
That element kind of broke down in the second half last night, and that's ultimately why they lost the game, in my opinion. Shea had one of the worst halves of basketball he's played, especially in the regular season, in a very long time. He looked like he was undecisive. He was turning the ball over badly. He was missing shots that you would expect him to make. He just wasn't at the level you usually get from him. And that probably is ultimately what cost them, and it changed them from being, instead of being 8-0, they're 7-1. It's not the end of the world, but I think that it was that element of, you talked about how secure they are with the ball, how quick they play. He kind of broke that down a little bit, and then
Yeah.
obviously when he's going to do that, then it's gonna kind of, I wouldn't say collapse because they still only lost by 2 points, but it's not going to put them in the best position to win off of that.
Yeah, it felt like a strange night for Shea, who's otherwise been great so far. Give credit to Christian Braun. Physicality brought Peyton Watson as well. Um, but anything else for OKC besides obviously being, I think, second to the Celtics, best team in basketball so far?
Yeah, and I think you look at the way that they can play, and when that shooting comes around, the defensive versatility, like how can you not label them as the perfect matchup for a team like the Boston Celtics? Like they can do. I feel like they are capable of doing everything that Boston is capable of doing, and I look forward to seeing them go head to head this season because I think it will be absolutely blockbuster.
Um, let's move on to our final team, Sacramento Kings. Let's start with are you team Drake or are you team DeRozan?
DeRozan, all day wrong, baby.
Of course. That was so corny, man. I wouldn't even talk about it too long, but that was corny. That was too corny.
Like, how do you not like DeRozan if you're a Toronto fan? I don't understand that.
Wait, are you not familiar? This will be funny. So, it's because DeRozan was on. It was either Kendrick's. I saw the video, but he did the performance where he brought a ton of like
Oh
athletes or the
yes,
artists from
yes, yeah.
Compton. So and DeRozan was out there. So and when Drake was on the broadcast, that's why he said what he said.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And then you see King's owner, he came out wearing the "They Not Like Us"
I didn't
jacket.
say that. That's
So that
good.
was be fun little vibe. I think they only meet a few times. But interesting relations now because I mean you got DeMar, who used to be a Toronto Raptor. You got the deals that they've made where, they've been one of the most frequent trade partners over the years. Um, Davion Mitchell now being on the Raptors, Gary Trent Jr. at one point. And then I'm trying to remember there's another player a couple of years ago, but just they're very close in terms of deals. But to stay on the Kings and to stay off of the other stuff, how impressive has the fit been um, with DeMar DeRozan, De'Aaron Fox, Sabonis, all guys who are averaging over 20? No one doesn't feel like anyone's taking a step back. I think that's been the question is, can they add another player who's a prolific mid-range scorer and expect Sabonis and Fox, two guys who do like to operate in that range as well. And it's looked seamless so far.
Yeah, surprisingly so. I mean, I thought it would take a bit of time. I thought we'd see Murray, I thought we'd see him take a step back. The fact that we haven't seen that, I think, is huge. The fact that he's still getting the same amount of shots he did last season, the fact that he still feels like just as important a member on both ends of the floor as he did last season, that's a huge thing for Sacramento early part of this season. That's something I've noticed and something that has really made me believe more in the Sacramento team, and they're edging up towards that number one offense. They're edging up to that level that they were at 2 years ago, which made them a playoff team. They're playing better defensively. Sabonis is currently averaging one make from deep a game. Just to put that in context, he's never done that
Yeah.
in his career.
Yes.
So if that's something that can stand true for the whole season, that makes a big difference. And also, as a team, they're shooting absolutely terribly from deep.
Yeah.
You got Murray at
30.
31%, Fox at 29, Monk at 31. I assume I expect that to get back to normal sort of levels and think about what they can do when that happens.
Yeah. And I like the volume. I like that we talked about it, I think, in preseason, but expecting Fox to continue that development from beyond the arc. And he's taking more. He's taking 7 threes a game. And, the shots look good. He's lining them up. He's getting them in rhythm. He's getting them within flow of the offense. It doesn't feel like he's forcing anything there. And he's getting plenty of volume off of DeMar as well. When DeMar's on the floor and, De'Aaron Fox is weak side, like he's getting some catch and shoot opportunities. And I think he's going to start to catch those. Keegan as well. I think Keegan can take even more.
Yeah.
But I think what's been impressive though is that a guy who's, often looked at as like one-dimensional, teams are just going to run him off the line. And what has he done? He's done really good attacking the paint. Like he's looked a lot more physically imposing, getting in the rim, finishing, dunking more. And I'm impressed with him. And I think he'll continue to take this a little bit further. And he's scoring 15 points per game, and he's only shooting 31% from three. Like, I think he's by the end of the season, we'll have said that Keegan Murray took a jump
Yeah.
if his shot normalizes. I have no doubt that he's not going to shoot 31% for the year. There's no way.
Yeah, I mean, the major blemish on the Kings' whole season so far is just that they actually lost to a Lakers team that had Anthony Davis in it. That's like the big blemish that's on the Kings' season so far. But it's been a solid start from them. The fit looks great, which is huge, and the fact that defense looks somewhat sustainable, which is something we definitely didn't expect.
Um, I guess one guy is Malik Monk, and I know he's always been like up and down. I want to see him do a little bit better.
Yeah.
Like he's been very inefficient to start, and he's got to stay aggressive. That's what he does. That's his game. But given the fact that like with DeMar DeRozan coming in, you need a little bit less on the offensive end, and you need just a little bit smarter shots. He doesn't have to be a hero as often as he was last year. A lot of it was like if Fox didn't have it going, it's got to be do or die. Is Malik Monk going to show up? Like, no, you got DeMar. Can he be a better spot up shooter? Can he space the floor a little bit? Can he be a smarter cutter? Can he do some of those little things, especially if you're gonna have lineups with him and DeMar on the floor together? Like you don't have to go lightning speed and just have do or die by Malik. So I'm curious if that's a dynamic of this team that they can explore to, get even better because their offense, they have so many weapons.
Yeah, that's definitely an area that if that comes to fruition, that's when you really see them like spring into that level that we saw a couple of years ago as this absolutely dominatrix of of an offense. And like obviously just one final shout, like Sabonis there last night made some NBA history. The first guy to have a triple double with no missed shots, no turnovers, and no fouls. It's pretty good going. That's pretty cool.
Dude, we're so good with these stat. Like every single week, there's like this guy's never done this before. No one's ever seen this stat line before. Like eventually, it's like, all right, when are we gonna run out of these unique
We've
stats?
seen every stat line ever, but that when do we hit that line? That's gonna be that should be a fun one. But it really feels like the NBA is back. Last night it felt like it returned. You know why? Because we saw the Thunder actually lose a game. We saw the Warriors go into Boston and put a beat down on them. We saw a rookie put up a 30-point game. Zachary Ricochet dropped 30 on the Knicks. His shot looked great. And we saw our first buzzer beater of the season. That boy, Brandon Miller, over in Charlotte,
Oof.
getting that win over Detroit. The NBA is back. And it feels good. But that's going to do it for today's episode. Thank you all so much for listening. Chris, thank you for joining me as always. Remember, we are on social media everywhere at Coast to Coast NBA. And most importantly, remember to take every shot and love every moment.
Peace out.